Hello everybody, back for the last video to do with investigation 3. I'm looking at one of the, number 4 actually, on your investigation 3, y equals sine x plus 3. Now notice this plus 3 is not in brackets with the x. Okay, it's not attached to that x as a horizontal translation. It's off here by itself at the end, so therefore it means a vertical translation. Vertical translation. And this vertical translation should be 3 units up. Okay, so y equals sine x. Let's put our y equals sine x back on here, and you should be quite proficient at this by now. You've been graphing y equals sine x quite a bit. So understanding the pattern that is here. All right. Putting that wave in, there we go. Okay, need to be careful about my arrow there. Don't have it too far down. That's okay. All right, now, so let's look at it algebraically first. So let's look at our 0. So y equals sine, substitute x in for 0, 0 plus 3. Okay, now this 3 is not attached to the sign, only the 0 is attached to the sign. So we need to find, it's exactly like having that in brackets by itself, okay? So we need to find what the sign of 0 is. Sign of 0 is 0, so that equals 0 plus 3, which is 3. Okay, so 0, 3 is a point on our graph. Here we have that there. Okay, let's do a couple more algebraically. Let's look at pi over 2. So y equals sine of pi over 2 plus 3. Now remember that plus 3 has nothing to do with the sign, only the pi over 2 does. Where before, when we were dealing with horizontal translation, something like y equals sine x minus pi over 2, this minus pi over 2 is attached to the x in the brackets, and therefore this number is what we're taking the sign of. Okay, so different algebraically than if it's out here by itself, not in a bracket with pi over 2. Okay, so we need to find sine of pi over 2, which is 1. 1 plus 3 is 4. So that is 4. So pi over 2, 4 is a point on our grid. And I guess we should add 4 in our scale here. Now, make sure you have your scale on your investigation. You're going to definitely want, for these vertical translation ones, you're going to want to use 1 grid mark for 1 unit on your vertical scale. Instead, I've used 2 here, but you should be using 1 because otherwise you won't be able to fit your whole graph on there. Okay, let's continue. Pi, let's put pi in here. So the sine of pi plus 3, sine of pi is 0. So 0 plus 3 is 3. So pi 3 is another point on our graph. All right, 3 pi over 2. Y equals sine of 3 pi over 2 plus 3. So 3 pi over, sine of 3 pi over 2 is negative 1. Negative 1 plus 3 is 2. So we have 2 here. 3 pi over 2 and 2. All right, so you can kind of see what's going to happen next, I think, based on the pattern that is evolving with that red graph. 2 pi, so y equals sine of 2 pi plus 3. Sine of 2 pi is all the way around is 0 plus 3, which is 3. Okay, so 2 pi and 3. All right, so look what's happening here. Here's what the graph is looking like. So this black graph has moved up 3 units. This point moved 1, 2, 3 units up. This point moved 1, 2, 3 units up. This one moved 1, 2, 3 units up. So we can continue that pattern back here. This point needs to move 3 units up. 1, 2, 3. This one 3 units up. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. drawn the rest of that curve. Okay, we have that y equals sine x plus 3. And of course you need to finish filling in here. And max and min. Oh, let's talk about max and min now. Okay, so maximum. What is the highest y value on this graph? Well, it's 4. Maximum is 4. Minimum, what's the lowest y value on this graph? 2. The period, has the period changed or is it still the same as y equals sine x? Repeats itself after the same amount of time, 2 pi, so it's the same. The period is still 2 pi. Amplitude, what about amplitude? So amplitude is from the middle of the graph. So you actually do not draw this middle on here, but I'm going to draw it on here just to show you. This is where the principal axis is, in the middle of the graph. Okay, that's the principal axis. Okay, that principal axis this time is not y equals 0 like in y equals sine x, it's y equals 3. Okay, so the amplitude is the distance from the principal axis to the maximum or from the principal axis to the minimum, and in both those cases the amplitude is still 1. And we just talked about the principal axis. In this case, it's y equals 3. Okay, you can do the rest of the investigation on your own. Have fun.